All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward with J13, which is our just-in-time review section for special products of binomials. This is the same as the multiplying polynomials we did in J12. The only difference is we might see them written a little bit different, okay? Remember when we did our exponent rules, we had a rule, so I'm just going to put up here. You don't have to write this down, but it's good to note. We had a rule that if we had something like ab to the nth power, that becomes a to the n, b to the n, right? We could just distribute that power to each of the bases within here, okay? That is only true when our bases are being multiplied. Notice there's not an addition or a subtraction here, okay? So if this was a plus b to the nth power, it is not the same thing as a to the nth power plus b to the nth power. Okay, we cannot distribute that n in here if there is a plus sign. No. Bad. Don't do it. Okay, so keeping this in mind that we can't just take a power being applied to a quantity and just square or cube or do whatever to those two numbers, let's look at what we're supposed to do, okay? So if we are told to multiply and we have a quantity squared or a quantity cubed or a quantity to any power, this little exponent is telling us the number of copies that we have of that quantity being multiplied times itself. Okay, so this is telling me that I have two copies being multiplied together. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as 5x squared minus 3 times 5x squared minus 3. Okay, and now we work it just like the ones we did in section J12, right? We just go ahead and take the first term of the first polynomial and distribute it across. So that's going to give us 5x times 5x squared is 25x to the fourth, right? And then 5x squared times negative 3 is negative 15x squared. And then I take that second term of the first polynomial and distribute it to the second polynomial. So negative 3 times 5x squared is negative 15x squared. That's a like term, so I'm going to go ahead and line it up. And then negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And then all I have to do is combine my like terms, right? So I end up with 25x to the fourth minus 30x squared plus 9. And I can just leave it like that, okay? So basically from here down is everything we did in the last section. The only difference is knowing that we cannot take this and just square the 5x squared or just square the 3. Because if we did that, we'd only be ending up with the first and the last term, right? We wouldn't be getting the middle term, okay? So this is kind of one of our special products, is when we have two quantities squared, or it could be to the third, right? If it was to the third, then we would have to do 3, okay? All right, the other one is when we multiply two quantities that are seemingly identical other than the middle value, okay? So if I distribute this out, 2x times 2x gives me 4x squared, right? 2x times positive 5 gives me a positive 10x. And then I distribute my negative 5. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. And negative 5 times positive 5 is negative 25. So what happens when you have two identical quantities, the only difference being the sign in the middle, is that those signs being opposite will always ensure that these middle terms are opposites. So they're actually just going to cancel out. And I'm left with 4x squared minus 25. Okay. All right, so there are two for you to try at the bottom of the page. And I encourage you to pause the video, work those out, and then when you're ready to be checked, play it again, see how you did. All right, let's go ahead and look at the practice problems. Number 1, when you distribute the 3x, you should get 9x squared plus 12x. When you distribute the negative 4, you should get negative 12x minus 16. And because these two quantities are identical other than that middle symbol, our middle terms end up being opposites. They cancel out, which leaves us with just 9x squared minus 16. Okay. On the second one, before we start doing anything, we need to write this quantity as 2 copies of this original quantity. So 4x plus 1 times 4x plus 1. So we're going to start by taking the 4x and distributing it over. When we distribute this 4x, we should get 16x squared plus 4x. And then when we distribute the 1, and I forgot to put my little loopy loops here, 1 times 4x is 4x, and 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, we combine our middle terms, so we end up with 16x squared plus 8x plus 1. All right, that is the end of J13, which is our special products of binomials. So you should now be able to complete that assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know.